I'm a college professor at Fairleigh Dickinson University, located in Madison, New Jersey. I've taught here for 7 years for the history department.
Hi, my name is Olivia Vliet, and I am a Hillsborough High School special education teacher. I work with kids with severe disabilities such as Down syndrome and autism.
My name is Daniela Mazo. I'm a second grade teacher at Hillcrest Elementary School in Morristown, New Jersey.
I was granted tenure after an extremely long process of about 4.5 years of applying. It was based on a portfolio that I had created based on what I teach my students, what my philosophy is for my students, all the criteria that I teach, and history that I've done in my past. The portfolio that I created to get my tenure was filled with so many documents that I've created over the years. And let me read you what my document was filled with. A PhD in history, a specialization that completes curriculum needs that I had, a clear commitment to teaching, and the ability to teach a variety of courses in world history that I did over the years as I taught at FDU. I taught history 1500s and on up until present day. Experience teaching courses in world history and evidence of excellence in teaching. I was observed in the classroom while teaching to my students. A record of scholarship and demonstrated scholarly potential. And lastly, a commitment to service to the school, college, and university. All of those 5 components were just a step in the right direction to get my tenure. Lastly, after I knew that I had all of these in place and I knew that I could apply, I had to fill out my, lack of a better words, portfolio with a letter of application, a curriculum vitae, a statement of teaching philosophy, evidence of teaching excellence, and 3 letters of reference. This portfolio was a make or break decision whether I was supposed to get tenure or not. After submitting my portfolio, I submitted it to a sample of professors that I knew taught at equivalent schools similar to Fairleigh Dickinson. They went on and told me that, yes, your portfolio is worth sending on to somebody else, so they sent on to other professors that thought that I was needed to be heard. They listened to my portfolio. They sent me a letter in the mail explaining that I needed to meet with them in person. After meeting with them in person, they told me that they are going to inform my university, and then the decision of me getting tenure would come down to provost and vice president of the university. After 4.5 years this took to apply to get my tenure. And being a college professor with tenure is often looked at, I think, as biased. But I completely disagree. Being in a college classroom with tenure makes it possible to talk about discussions that need to be talked about without getting penalized. For example, being a history teacher, oftentimes I feel that we have to hold back what actually happened in history because it can be tough subjects to talk about with students. But me having tenure, I was able to talk about everything that went through history and not have to hold anything back. I gave the students a clear image of what happened. And this, I'm teaching them exactly what they needed to know to be prepared for the real world. Tenure does not hold you back. And what college professors find is that it's almost a cushion. They find that they can't talk about things that need to be discussed, and they think that students need to know. It's also very hard to get fired. Being a professor with tenure is absolutely helpful. Me, as a professor, is looking at her students and seeing that telling the honest truth about what is happening in the world is going to prepare them for what's out there. My job as a professor is to give every detail that will help my students evolve into great human beings later on in their lives. I know that sometimes tenure will not grant all students that, and I know all students may not be that, but me having the potential, being granted tenure, to talk about things that need to be discussed and inform them on issues that are happening, that have happened, or that will happen, is crucial to make them the person that I'm trying to form them into being. Tenure, honestly, was one of the best things that happened to me as a professor, because not only was I able to talk to my students, But I could see how the students were changing, how my classroom's vibe changed. I saw that not only were kids confused, or I was just timid about talking about discussions, but things that were really happening, I could truly discuss with my students, and we could have a mature conversation. Having tenure makes me a mature professor in my eyes. Being mature, I'm able to help students do what they want to do.
So today I guess I'm going to be talking about tenure and the effects of it on me. And personally, I think it really does affect me and my students. Basically, for me, tenure is something that is given to me after working for about 3 or 4 years in a district, and they give me tenure, and then once I get tenure, I'm in. It's kind of very hard to get fired, so once you're there, you're kind of there. And, the thing that's kind of rough about it is that what happens is people start, more specifically teachers, they start to kind of follow this idea that once they're in tenure, they're set, so they have nothing to worry about. But for me, I kind of find that a bit rebarbative because I don't really see how it's okay that a teacher doesn't have to worry about their job. For me personally, I think that when I get paid and when I'm given my paycheck, I want to know that everything there is earned. I want to know that I worked hard for what I got. And unfortunately, a lot of teachers, they get tired and bored and they figure, well, I'm set, so I don't need to put 100% in, and I don't have to be all about, trying new things and, keeping the idea up, like your, motivation. They lose it, and it's honestly really sad. And, I don't want to say every teacher because it's not right. I can't say that every teacher is like that, but there is definitely a good majority of teachers that tend to, lose sight of what teaching is really about. And it's because of tenure. And it's really sad. Not only that, it doesn't only just affect the fact that teachers lose their motivation and stop teaching to the best of their abilities, it loses the fact for the children to be able to expand their horizon on education. Because for me, teaching is all about being creative and teaching a student more than what is just given in your curriculum. And with tenure, they want you to follow this whole idea about equality and going down a certain route that, takes you to standardized testing, and they figure, well, if you can't do the standardized testing, we'll just hold you back until you get it. And that's not really right. I don't think that any person should work off of what's normal, because what is normal? There is none normal. And it really upsets me that kids are supposed to look at, this level and they're all supposed to be there, because how is that even practical? Especially working with kids with severe disabilities, they're all at different levels. There's no child that's at the same level. And a lot of times with kids with severe disabilities, intellectual based, it's very hard to place them in a specific their specific level, because you can't guarantee that everyone's going to be the exact same spot. Same thing with 5th, 6th, 8th, all the other grades. It's like, you generally have kids in the same idea, but a teacher needs to take their class and teach them to what they're capable of. And you want to push them, and you want to push them until they get to the highest amount of success, And my goal as a teacher is to make kids broaden their horizon and become these amazing people and successful and go out to the world and do the jobs that they want to do. But if they're all based off of a standardized test and they're all taught the same thing, how is anybody supposed to be different? Because honestly, nobody's the same. And if we're all taught to be the same person, then we're all going to be doing the same job, and that's not going to really work out well. So honestly, tenure has been really rough on me. I think it's because my heart and soul is into everything about teaching. I love it. And seeing that I lose my ability to be unique in my teaching. For example, I had a teacher in 8th grade. Her name's Miss Williams, and she taught us more than just English. And she was super strict, but she taught us something about responsibility and respect and how to be a mature teenager. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had that ability. But unfortunately, as tenure gets bigger and bigger and schools adopt it more often, we lose that ability. So to me personally, I think tenure has been very harmful to a teacher because you get paid salary and I only get my promotion every year when I could be an amazing teacher, yet I have this teacher that's been here for 10 years. She gets paid so much more than me, but yet she doesn't teach the kids anything and she just has them sit there filling out worksheets for their whole class. And that's really not beneficial. So honestly, tenure based on salary and the rights that it gives to teachers and students, unfortunately, it just ends up hurting both students and the teacher. And it's not an effect that I want to have on me or my students.
I've been a teacher for 5 years. They have been really great years. They have been really fun and educational for me. I have been with tenure for 2 years now. The process was for 3 years, which I was observed and evaluated every time, and also a lot of conferences with the people and telling me where I can improve and all that stuff. Tenure gives me the opportunity to teach what I want to teach, what I really want my students to know, um, what I want them to learn, and what's really important. Um, it gives me the ability to disagree with the things that are not beneficial for the school and the community. But I'm able to fight for my students' rights and make a difference in their lives. Tenure protects good teachers from getting fired for no reason. Some people think that teachers shouldn't be tenured because it only benefits the teacher, but I don't think that's true because it benefits the students and the people that surrounds them because they're going to have great teachers teaching them and they're going to have stable one. Like they're not going to be changing teachers every time and having to meet three teachers every time. So it makes a difference. It is true that sometimes individuals with tenure take advantage of the privilege that it offers by not teaching the students well and not working hard enough. These people, of course, do not deserve it, but when they happen to be tenure, it becomes really difficult for schools to fire them because of all the time, cost, and legal stuff that they have to go through. In order to avoid this, I think that evaluations to get tenure need to be longer and give the teacher enough time to show that they really are capable of teaching and that have really the passion of doing this job.